What happens when a man makes the biggest mistake of his life in front of America's most compassionate judge? 28-year-old Marcus Thompson stood in Providence Municipal Court on October 17, 2023, and uttered words that would change everything. Within seconds of cursing at Judge Frank Caprio, bailiffs surrounded him. Within minutes, he was being led away in handcuffs. But what happened next? What Judge Caprio did after the cameras stopped rolling would restore your faith in humanity and leave millions of people around the world absolutely speechless. If you've ever made a mistake you thought you couldn't come back from, hit that subscribe button right now, because this story will show you that redemption is always possible. Drop a comment below telling us about a time someone showed you unexpected mercy. And smash that like button if you believe in second chances, because you're about to witness the most powerful transformation caught on camera. The courtroom was packed that Tuesday morning. Marcus Thompson had been cited for 14 unpaid parking tickets totaling $2,400. He arrived wearing a torn Nike hoodie, faded Levi's jeans, and scuffed Timberland boots. His hair was uncombed. His eyes were bloodshot. He hadn't slept in 36 hours. Working double shifts at a warehouse in Pawtucket, trying to keep his family afloat after his wife Jennifer had lost her job as a dental assistant 3 months earlier. Marcus had 2 daughters. 7-year-old Alicia was in 2nd grade at Pleasant View Elementary. 4-year-old Sophie had just started preschool. Neither knew their father was drowning in debt, barely keeping their Honda Accord from being repossessed, rationing groceries to make it through each week. Marcus was exhausted. He was desperate, and he was angry. Angry at a world that seemed determined to kick him when he was already down. Court Officer Daniel Rodriguez called the case. Marcus Anthony Thompson versus the City of Providence. Case number 2023 CVO 8847. Marcus shuffled to the podium, shoulders hunched, jaw clenched. He didn't make eye contact with anyone. In the gallery behind him sat his mother, Patricia Thompson, a 63-year-old retired nurse who had raised Marcus alone after his father abandoned them when Marcus was 9. Patricia clutched her rosary beads, praying silently, knowing her son was at a breaking point. Judge Frank Caprio entered through the chamber doors, his signature warmth evident even in his posture. At 87 years old, Judge Caprio had presided over Providence Municipal Court for decades, earning international fame not through harsh sentences, but through extraordinary compassion. His show, Caught in Providence, had garnered over 300 million views on YouTube. People from Brazil to the Philippines knew his face, his gentle manner, his ability to see the human being behind every case number. Share this video with someone who needs to see what real justice looks like. You won't believe what happens in the next few minutes. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson," Judge Caprio said, his voice kind but measured. "I see you have quite a few parking tickets here. 14 violations over the past 8 months. Can you explain what's been happening?" Quote. Marcus stared at the papers in front of him. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The court stenographer, Linda Chen, positioned her fingers over the keys, ready to record every word. Assistant City Solicitor Robert Brennan stood to the side, reviewing his notes, expecting a routine payment plan arrangement. "I can't pay," Marcus said flatly. His voice was hoarse, drained of emotion. Judge Caprio leaned forward slightly. "I understand that. Tell me about your situation. Are you working?" Quote. "Yeah, I'm working." Marcus's hands gripped the podium edge. "I'm working 60-70 hours a week at a warehouse, breaking my back, and I still can't make ends meet. My wife lost her job. I've got 2 kids. The rent is 2 months behind. We're eating ramen noodles for dinner. And now you want me to pay $2,000 for parking tickets because I had to park on the street when the parking meter was broken?" Quote. The courtroom was silent. Judge Caprio nodded slowly, his expression unchanged. "I hear your frustration, Mr. Thompson. These are difficult times. Let me look at your record here." He examined the documents before him, reading glasses perched on his nose. "I see several of these tickets were issued on Broad Street near your workplace. Is that correct?" Quote. "Yeah, that's correct," Marcus said, his voice rising slightly. "Because there's nowhere else to park. The employee lot is full by 6 in the morning, and I start at 7. So I park on the street, and half the time the meter is broken or doesn't take cards, and I don't have quarters because I'm using every penny to feed my family." Judge Caprio set the papers down. "Mr. Thompson, I understand your circumstances are challenging. I genuinely do. But I also need to understand, why did you let this accumulate to 14 tickets? Why didn't you come to court sooner to address this?" Quote. And that's when it happened. Marcus's face flushed red. His exhaustion, his fear, his shame. It all erupted in one catastrophic moment. "Because I don't have time for this," he shouted. "I don't have time to take a day off work and lose $200 in wages to come here and get lectured about parking tickets. I'm trying to survive, and you're sitting up there in your robe judging me like you have any idea what it's like." Quote. The courtroom gasped. Patricia Thompson's hand flew to her mouth. Officer Rodriguez instinctively moved forward, his hand near his belt. Judge Caprio held up a hand, stopping the officer. His expression remained calm, almost serene. "Mr. Thompson, I need you to take a breath and lower your voice. I'm here to help you, not to—" "Help me," Marcus's voice cracked with bitter laughter. "You can't help me. Nobody can help me. This whole system is designed to crush people like me, and you know what? I'm done. I'm done with all of this." Quote. Then came the words that would make national headlines. "You can take your courtroom and your tickets and shove them up your—" The profanity echoed off the wood-paneled walls. The entire courtroom froze. Even the camera operators behind the glass partition stood motionless, shocked that someone would speak to Judge Caprio, beloved, grandfather-like Judge Caprio, with such venom. If you're watching this in shock right now, leave a comment below with just one word: unbelievable. Let's see how many people are as stunned as we are. Judge Caprio's face remained composed, but something flickered in his eyes. Not anger, not indignation, something deeper, something sad. He pressed a button on his desk. His voice was quiet, but firm. "Mr. Thompson, you've just committed contempt of court. Officer Rodriguez, please place Mr. Thompson in custody." Marcus's bravado evaporated instantly. The color drained from his face. "Wait, what? No, I—" Two bailiffs appeared from the side door, Officer Rodriguez and Officer James Mitchell, a former Marine who'd served 2 tours in Afghanistan. They flanked Marcus, their movements professional but not aggressive. "Sir, place your hands behind your back," Officer Mitchell said. "No, wait, please," Marcus stammered, suddenly realizing the magnitude of what he'd done. "I didn't mean— I'm sorry, I—" The metallic click of handcuffs snapping shut silenced him. Behind him, Patricia Thompson began to cry, her sobs muffled by her hands. In the gallery, 2 other people who'd been waiting for their cases watched in stunned silence. A young woman named Sarah Bennett, there for a speeding ticket, would later tell reporters she'd never seen anything like it. A middle-aged man, Carlos Rivera, would post on social media that he witnessed the moment a man's life fell apart in real time. Judge Caprio spoke, his voice carrying the weight of authority. "Mr. Thompson, you are being held in contempt of court for verbal abuse and profanity directed at this court. You will be detained until you can appear before me again to address this matter properly. This hearing is adjourned." Marcus's legs buckled. Officer Rodriguez caught him, holding him steady. "Come on, let's go," Rodriguez said, not unkindly. They led Marcus toward the side door, toward the holding cells beneath the courthouse, toward what Marcus believed was the end of everything he'd been fighting for. As the door closed behind them, Judge Caprio sat motionless at the bench. He removed his glasses and rubbed his eyes. Assistant Solicitor Brennan approached the bench. "Your Honor, shall I prepare the contempt citation for processing?" Quote. Judge Caprio held up a hand. "Give me a moment, please." He looked at Patricia Thompson, still weeping in the gallery. He saw the rosary beads trembling in her hands. He saw the worn fabric of her coat, the scuffed shoes, the weathered hands of a woman who'd worked hard her entire life. "Ma'am," Judge Caprio said gently, "are you Mr. Thompson's mother?" Quote. Patricia looked up, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, Your Honor, I'm so sorry." He's not like this. He's a good boy. He's struggling so much and—" Her voice broke. Judge Caprio nodded. "Please don't leave. I'd like to speak with you after we finish today's docket. Officer Chen, can you make sure Mrs. Thompson is escorted to my chambers in about an hour?" Quote. Court Administrator Jennifer Chen nodded. "Of course, Your Honor." The gavel came down. Next case. Like this video right now if you think Judge Caprio is about to do something incredible. You need to see what happens next. Beneath the courthouse, in holding cell number 3, Marcus sat on a concrete bench, his head in his hands. The cell was 8 feet by 10 feet, painted institutional gray, with a stainless steel toilet in the corner and a small window near the ceiling that let in a rectangle of weak October sunlight. The handcuffs had been removed, but his wrists bore red marks where the metal had pressed into his skin. Officer Rodriguez stood outside the bars. "You want some water?" he asked. Marcus didn't respond. He was replaying the moment over and over in his mind, hearing his own voice, shouting profanity at an elderly judge who'd been trying to help him. The shame was suffocating. He thought about Jennifer, who would be getting off her shift at the grocery store where she'd taken a part-time job, checking her phone to see if Marcus had texted about the court appearance. He thought about Alicia, who'd made him a good luck card that morning, decorated with crayon drawings of hearts and stars. He thought about little Sophie, who'd kissed his cheek and said, "Be good, Daddy." He destroyed everything. In the courtroom above, Judge Caprio continued through the morning docket. A woman with an expired registration received a reduced fine. A college student with a speeding ticket got traffic school. An elderly man who'd parked in a handicapped space without proper tags received a warning. Each case received Judge Caprio's full attention, his trademark blend of justice and mercy. But throughout each case, his mind returned to Marcus Thompson. He'd seen thousands of defendants over his decades on the bench. He'd heard every excuse, every sob story, every manipulation attempt. But he'd also developed an instinct for recognizing genuine desperation. He'd seen the look in Marcus's eyes, not the calculated anger of someone working an angle, but the wild, cornered panic of a man who'd reached his breaking point. At 12:15, Judge Caprio called a recess. He removed his robe and sat in his chambers, a wood-paneled office filled with photographs of his family, commendations from community organizations, and letters from grateful defendants whose lives had been changed by his interventions. His law clerk, 26-year-old Emma Richardson, entered with a folder. "Your Honor, I pulled Mr. Thompson's full background," she said. "It's not what I expected." Judge Caprio opened the folder. Marcus Anthony Thompson, born March 3, 1995, in Providence. Mother, Patricia Thompson, registered nurse. Father, Anthony Thompson, whereabouts unknown since 2004. Education, graduated from Hope High School 2013. Attended Community College of Rhode Island for 2 semesters. Dropped out due to financial constraints. Employment history, various warehouse and logistics positions. No criminal record, not even a speeding ticket until 8 months ago. He's been working at Northeast Distribution Center for 3 years, Emma continued. I called them. His supervisor, a man named Tom Bradley, said Marcus is one of their most reliable employees. Shows up on time, works overtime whenever available, never complains. Bradley was shocked to hear Marcus was in legal trouble. Judge Caprio turned the page. There was a note from the Providence Housing Authority. Marcus and his family were facing eviction from their apartment on Camden Avenue. 2 months behind on rent, totaling $2,800. Another note from Rhode Island Energy. Disconnection notice for unpaid utilities, $417. A letter from Hasbro Children's Hospital. Sophie Thompson had been treated in the emergency room 6 weeks ago for a severe asthma attack. Insurance covered most of it, but the family still owed $892. Judge Caprio closed the folder and pressed his hands together, elbows on his desk. He sat in silence for a long moment. "Send Mrs. Thompson in, please," he said quietly. "Comment below if you're starting to understand why Marcus broke down. This story is about to take a turn you won't see coming." Patricia Thompson entered the chambers tentatively, as if she didn't belong in such a space. Her eyes were still red from crying. Jennifer Chen guided her to a leather chair across from Judge Caprio's desk. "Please, sit down, Mrs. Thompson," Judge Caprio said warmly. "Would you like some water? Coffee?" Quote, Patricia shook her head, perching on the edge of the chair like a bird ready to take flight. "Your Honor, I don't know what to say. Marcus he's never acted like that. He's a good father, a good husband. He's overwhelmed," Judge Caprio finished gently. "I understand, Mrs. Thompson. Tell me about your son. Tell me about his family." And she did. The story poured out of Patricia like water breaking through a dam. She told him about raising Marcus alone after his father left them with nothing but debt and broken promises. About working double shifts at Rhode Island Hospital to keep food on the table and keep Marcus in decent schools. About Marcus's dreams of becoming an engineer, dreams that died when the scholarship money ran out and student loans became impossible to manage. She told him about Jennifer, Marcus's wife of 6 years, who'd worked as a dental assistant until the practice downsized. About Alicia, who was gifted in mathematics and wanted to be a scientist, and Sophie, who had chronic asthma that required expensive medications and frequent medical monitoring. "He works so hard, Your Honor," Patricia said, tears flowing again. "He leaves the house at 5:30 in the morning and doesn't get home until 8 at night. He works weekends. He's taken every overtime shift available. He's selling his possessions. He sold his father's watch last month, the only thing he had from him, to pay for Sophie's medication. And it's still not enough. Every time he gets a little bit ahead, something else happens. A car repair, a medical bill, and now these parking tickets." Her voice broke. "He's drowning, and he can't see any way out. I've tried to help, but I'm on a fixed income. My pension and Social Security barely cover my own expenses. I feel like I'm watching my son slowly break apart, and there's nothing I can do." Judge Caprio listened, his expression compassionate but unreadable. When Patricia finished, he leaned back in his chair. "Mrs. Thompson, your son made a serious mistake today. What he said to me was inappropriate and cannot be excused. Do you understand that?" Quote. Patricia nodded vigorously. "Yes, Your Honor, I understand, and he understands. He's never done anything like this before. He's at the end of his rope." "I know," Judge Caprio said softly. "I could see that." He paused, considering his next words carefully. "Mrs. Thompson, I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to speak with your son, but I need you to understand. He must take responsibility for his actions. Whatever help I can offer, it comes with the expectation that he will change his approach, his attitude, and his choices. Can he do that?" Quote, "Yes," Patricia said immediately. "Yes, Your Honor, I know he can." Judge Caprio stood. "Wait here, please." He left his chambers and walked down the narrow hallway that led to the holding cells. His shoes echoed on the tile floor. Officer Mitchell stood at the security door. "Your Honor," Mitchell said, surprised, "I can bring Thompson up to you if—" "No," Judge Caprio said. "I'll speak to him here." Mitchell unlocked the security door, and Judge Caprio descended the stairs to the cell block. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead. The air smelled of disinfectant and concrete. Marcus looked up as the judge approached his cell, shock registering on his face. Judge Caprio stood before the bars, hands clasped behind his back. For a long moment, neither man spoke. If your heart is pounding right now, hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss a single second of what's about to happen. "Mr. Thompson," Judge Caprio finally said, "I've spent 40 years on the bench. I've seen thousands of people stand where you stood this morning. Some were criminals. Some were victims of circumstance. Some were simply good people having a bad day. Which one are you?" Quote. Marcus's throat was tight. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry, Your Honor. I don't know what. I shouldn't have." "No, you shouldn't have," Judge Caprio agreed. "You disrespected this court, you disrespected me, and most importantly, you disrespected yourself. The question is, why?" Quote. Marcus struggled to find words. The exhaustion, the fear, the shame, it all bubbled up again, but this time without the explosive anger. "I'm failing," he said, his voice breaking. "I'm failing my wife. I'm failing my daughters. I work as hard as I possibly can, and it's never enough. Every time I think I'm getting somewhere, something else goes wrong." And these parking tickets, it felt like the universe was just piling on, like, "Hey, you're already drowning, here's another brick." And I snapped. Judge Caprio nodded slowly. "Do you know why I come to work every day, Mr. Thompson? At 87 years old, when I could be retired, spending time with my grandchildren?" Quote. Marcus shook his head. "Because I believe in second chances," Judge Caprio said. "I believe that people are not defined by their worst moments. I believe that justice without mercy is just cruelty with a gavel." He paused. "But I also believe in accountability. What you did today cannot be ignored. Do you understand that?" Quote. "Yes, sir," Marcus said. "I understand." "Here's what's going to happen," Judge Caprio said. "You're going to be released from this cell in a few minutes. You're going to go home to your family. Tomorrow morning, you're going to return to my courtroom at 9 o'clock sharp. You're going to stand before me again, and this time, you're going to show me who you really are. Not the angry, desperate man who cursed at me, but the father, the husband, the worker that your mother told me about. And then we're going to figure out how to solve your problems in a way that doesn't destroy your life. Can you do that?" Quote. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "Your Honor, why would you, after what I said to you?" Judge Caprio smiled slightly. "Because I've learned something in 40 years, Mr. Thompson. Hurt people, and helping people helps people. I'm choosing to help, but you need to choose to be helped. That means honesty. That means humility. That means being willing to accept that you can't do this alone. Are you willing to do that?" Quote. Marcus nodded, unable to speak, tears running down his face. "Good," Judge Caprio said. He turned to Officer Mitchell. "Release Mr. Thompson. Make sure he has his mother's contact information and transportation home." Quote. "Your Honor," Mitchell said, confused. "He was cited for contempt." "Don't we need to?" "I'll address the contempt citation tomorrow morning," Judge Caprio said. "Right now, Mr. Thompson needs to go home and hold his daughters." "Officer Mitchell, have you ever had one of those days where everything goes wrong and you're not sure how you're going to make it through?" Quote. Mitchell softened. "Yes, sir, I have." "Then you understand," Judge Caprio said. He looked at Marcus one more time. 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, Mr. Thompson. Don't be late." Quote. "I won't, Your Honor," Marcus managed to say. "I promise. And, Your Honor, thank you. I don't deserve." "None of us deserve mercy, Mr. Thompson," Judge Caprio said quietly. "That's what makes it mercy." Share this video right now if you believe this is what justice should look like. Send it to everyone you know. 30 minutes later, Marcus walked out of the courthouse into the October afternoon, his mother's arm linked through his. The sunlight felt surreal after the gray walls of the holding cell. Patricia held him tightly, as if afraid he might disappear. "Mom," Marcus said, his voice hoarse. "What just happened? Why would he, after what I said?" "Because he's a good man," Patricia said simply. "And because he sees you, Marcus. Not your mistakes. You. Now you need to show me was right to give you this chance." They rode the bus home in silence, Patricia's hand gripping Marcus's the entire way. When they arrived at the modest two-bedroom apartment on Camden Avenue, Jennifer was waiting, having received a frantic call from Patricia hours earlier. She opened the door, saw Marcus's face, and immediately wrapped her arms around him. "I thought—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "I know," Marcus whispered into her hair. "I know. I'm so sorry, Jen, for everything." Alicia and Sophie came running from the living room, launching themselves at their father. Marcus dropped to his knees and held them, breathing in the scent of Sophie's strawberry shampoo and Alicia's fruit snack breath. In that moment, in that small apartment with its worn carpet and thrift store furniture, Marcus made a decision. He would never let desperation turn him into someone his daughters couldn't recognize. He would accept help. He would change. That night, Marcus barely slept. He lay next to Jennifer, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment from the courtroom. At 3 in the morning, he got up and sat at the small kitchen table with a notebook Jennifer had bought him for Christmas, unused until now. He began to write. "Dear Your Honor," he started, then crossed it out. Tried again. "Judge Caprio, I don't have the right words." Crossed out again. Finally, he simply wrote, "Thank you for seeing me when I couldn't see myself." Quote. The next morning, October 18th, Marcus stood outside Providence Municipal Court at 8:15, wearing his only dress shirt, a white Oxford cloth button-down Jennifer had ironed for him, and his cleanest jeans. He'd shaved, he'd combed his hair, he'd rehearsed what he would say 100 times. Patricia, Jennifer, and even little Alicia accompanied him. They'd left Sophie with Patricia's neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, a kind woman who'd watched the Thompson children many times before. Alicia held her father's hand tightly, her 7-year-old face serious. "You got this, Daddy," she said. "Just tell the truth." Marcus smiled down at her. "When did you get so wise?" Quote, "I've always been wise," Alicia said matter-of-factly, making her grandmother chuckle despite the tension. At 8:45, Court Officer Rodriguez found them in the hallway. "Mr. Thompson? Judge Caprio would like to see you in his chambers before court begins." Marcus's stomach dropped. Jennifer squeezed his hand. "You've got this," she whispered. He followed Officer Rodriguez down the now familiar hallways to the judge's chambers. Emma Richardson met them at the door. "Just Mr. Thompson, please," she said kindly. "Your family can wait in the courtroom." Marcus entered the chambers alone. Judge Caprio sat at his desk, but this time he wasn't wearing his robe. He wore a simple blue suit and tie, looking more like someone's grandfather than a judge. He gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit down, Marcus," he said, using his first name. "We're not in court yet. Right now, we're just two men having a conversation. Drop a comment if you're on the edge of your seat. This is where everything changes." Marcus sat, his hands clasped in his lap. "Your Honor, I wrote something for you, but it's not. I'm not good with words, and "Let me start," Judge Caprio said gently. "After you left yesterday, I did something I don't usually do. I spent 3 hours making phone calls. Do you want to know who I called?" Quote. Marcus shook his head, confused. "I called Tom Bradley, your supervisor at the distribution center," Judge Caprio said. "He told me you're the kind of employee he wishes he could clone. He said you've never called in sick, you've filled in for other workers without complaint, and last Christmas, you gave your bonus to a coworker whose son needed surgery. Is that true?" Quote. Marcus looked down. His son had cancer. We were doing okay at the time. It seemed right. "I called Pastor Williams at Elmwood Community Church," Judge Caprio continued. "He told me you volunteer every Saturday morning at their food pantry, even though you work 60 hours a week. He said you always take the heavy lifting jobs so the elderly volunteers don't have to." "I'm already there," Marcus said quietly. "Might as well help." "I called Dr. Sarah Mitchell at Hasbro Children's Hospital," Judge Caprio said. "She's Sophie's pulmonologist. She told me you've never missed one of Sophie's appointments. She said you take notes, ask questions, and that you've learned how to administer her treatments better than some nurses. She said Sophie is lucky to have you." Marcus's eyes were burning. "Sophie is everything. Both my girls are everything." "I know," Judge Caprio said. "I also called Allied Property Management, your landlord. I had a very interesting conversation with the property manager, a woman named Catherine Torres. She told me something fascinating. Do you know what she said?" Quote. Marcus shook his head, terrified. "She said that 2 months ago, when you first fell behind on rent, you came to her office with a detailed payment plan. You showed her your budget, your work schedule, everything. You asked for 60 days to catch up, and you promised you'd make it work. She agreed. She said you were the most honest tenant she'd dealt with in years. And then last month, when you still couldn't make the full payment, you came back and apologized in person. You gave her $300, every penny you could spare, and promised you'd have the rest soon. She said she's seen dozens of tenants just disappear and avoid her, but not you. You faced the problem directly." Marcus wiped his eyes. "I'm still behind. I'm still facing eviction." "Not anymore," Judge Caprio said. "I'll get to that in a moment, but first I need you to understand something. I didn't make those phone calls to verify your story. I made them to verify your character. And do you know what I found?" Quote. Marcus looked up, meeting the judge's eyes. "I found a good man having a terrible season," Judge Caprio said. I found a man who's been fighting alone, trying to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders, refusing to ask for help because he was taught that real men solve their own problems. Am I right? Quote. Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. My dad left us with nothing. He ran away from his responsibilities. I promised myself I'd never be like him. I'd never quit. I'd never ask anyone for anything. I'd just work harder, be stronger. And you've been working harder and being stronger, Judge Caprio said. So hard and so strong that you broke. Marcus, let me tell you something. I've been married to my wife Joyce for 62 years. I have 5 children, 13 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. And I learned a long time ago that the strongest thing a man can do is admit he needs help. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Marcus was openly crying now, not the angry tears of yesterday, but the relieved tears of someone finally being seen, finally being understood. Judge Caprio reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a folder. Here's what's going to happen. I spoke with the city solicitor. Your 14 parking tickets, totaling $2,400, are being dismissed. 8 of those meters were reported as malfunctioning during the times you were cited. The city has a policy. If the meter is broken, the ticket is invalid. Nobody ever checked. Consider them dismissed. Marcus's jaw dropped, but the other 6. The other 6, Judge Caprio continued, are being reduced to warnings. I reviewed the circumstances. You were parked legally but without payment because you genuinely couldn't afford the meters. That's not willful violation. That's poverty, and we don't criminalize poverty in my courtroom. Hit that like button if Judge Caprio is restoring your faith in humanity. But wait, there's more. So much more. Your Honor, I don't know what to say, Marcus stammered. That's incredible, but I still have. Your rent, Judge Caprio said. Yes. I spoke with Catherine Torres and with a foundation that my family runs, the Caprio Family Foundation. We provide emergency assistance to families in crisis. We're going to pay your back rent, all of it, $2,800. Marcus froze. The words didn't make sense. You're going to what? Why would you? Because you need help, and I can provide it, Judge Caprio said simply. But there are conditions. Are you ready to hear them? Quote. Marcus nodded mutely. First, you're going to accept help from community resources, Judge Caprio said. Emma has compiled a list of assistance programs you qualify for but haven't applied to. Food assistance. Utility assistance. Sophie's medical expenses can be reduced through hospital charity care programs that you didn't know existed. You're going to apply for all of them. That's not charity. That's using systems designed exactly for situations like yours. Understood? Quote. Yes, Your Honor. Second, I spoke with Tom Bradley. Your company offers a tuition reimbursement program for employees pursuing additional certifications. You're going to enroll in a forklift operator certification course. It's 6 weeks, and when you complete it, your pay increases by $4 an hour. That's an extra $600 a month. Tom is going to help you with the application today. Understood? Quote. Yes, Your Honor. Third, Judge Caprio's voice became more serious. You're going to attend 6 weeks of counseling. Not because you're broken, but because you need tools to manage stress, anxiety, and the trauma of poverty. It's free through Rhode Island Community Mental Health. Jennifer is going to attend with you. Emma already called her and she agreed. You're going to learn how to ask for help, how to accept help, and how to recognize when you're approaching a breaking point before you reach it. Understood? Quote. Marcus was sobbing now, nodding. Yes, Your Honor. Fourth, and this is the most important one, Judge Caprio said, leaning forward. You're going to pay it forward. Not now. You can't afford it now. But someday, when you're back on your feet, when you're stable, when you have a little extra, you're going to help someone else who's where you are right now. You're going to be the person who sees them drowning and throws them a rope. Can you promise me that? Quote. I promise, Marcus said, his voice choked with emotion. I swear, Your Honor, I'll spend the rest of my life paying it forward. Judge Caprio smiled, the warm grandfatherly smile that millions had seen on YouTube. Good. Now, we still need to address the contempt citation. You cursed at a judge in open court. That happened. We can't pretend it didn't." Marcus's heart sank. "I understand. Whatever the punishment is, I deserve it." Quote, "Here's what I've decided," Judge Caprio said. "You're going to perform 40 hours of community service at Elmwood Community Church Food Pantry. Pastor Williams said you already volunteer there, so this will just be making it official. You'll complete it within 60 days. And you're going to write a letter, not to me, but to yourself. A letter about what you learned from this experience. What you want your daughters to know about making mistakes and accepting grace. You'll give that letter to Emma when you complete your community service. Deal." Quote, Marcus couldn't speak. He simply nodded, tears streaming down his face. Judge Caprio stood and extended his hand. "Come on. We have a courtroom full of people waiting. Let's go show them what redemption looks like." Comment below with the word grace if this story is touching your heart. Share it with someone who's struggling right now. At 9:02 that morning, Judge Caprio's courtroom was unusually full. Word had spread about yesterday's incident, court staff talk, and the Caught in Providence production team had been reviewing the footage. Several staff members who didn't normally attend morning sessions had found reasons to be present. They wanted to see what happened next. Marcus stood at the podium again, but this time his mother, his wife, and his daughter Alicia stood in the front row of the gallery. Alicia held her good luck card, now slightly crumpled from being carried in her backpack. Judge Caprio took his place at the bench. The court was called to order. Officer Rodriguez called the case. Marcus Anthony Thompson, contempt of court citation. Case number 2023 CT 00293. Mr. Thompson, Judge Caprio began formally. Yesterday, you appeared before this court regarding parking violations. During that appearance, you used profane language directed at this court. Do you remember what you said? Quote, Marcus's voice was steady. Yes, Your Honor. I remember every word, and I am deeply, profoundly sorry. There is no excuse for how I spoke to you. You were trying to help me, and I responded with disrespect and anger. I was wrong. Why did you speak that way? Judge Caprio asked. Marcus took a breath. Because I was scared. I was exhausted. I was ashamed that I couldn't provide for my family the way I wanted to. And instead of asking for help, instead of being honest about my situation, I lashed out at you. I made you the target of all my frustration with myself. That was wrong. You didn't deserve that, and I'm sorry. The courtroom was silent. Judge Caprio nodded. Mr. Thompson, I accept your apology, and I want you to know something. Yesterday, after you were taken into custody, I sat at this bench, and I had a choice to make. I could treat you like a case number, process you through the system, and move on. Or I could treat you like a human being who made a mistake. I chose the second option. Do you know why? Quote, No, sir, Marcus said. Because 40 years ago I was you, Judge Caprio said. The courtroom gasped softly. Not exactly your circumstances, but I was a young man struggling to provide for my family. I was a new lawyer with more debt than income. My wife and I had young children. And one day I broke down in the office of a senior partner at the firm where I worked. I told him I couldn't do it anymore, that I was drowning. And instead of judging me, he helped me. He taught me that accepting help isn't weakness, it's the beginning of strength. Judge Caprio paused. That man's name was Richard Lazaro. He's gone now, but I made him a promise. I promised that if I ever had the opportunity to help someone the way he helped me, I would do it without hesitation. Yesterday, you gave me that opportunity. Today, you're keeping that chain of grace alive by accepting help and promising to help others in the future. Marcus was crying again, but so were several people in the gallery. Jennifer was holding Patricia's hand, both women tearful. Alicia watched her father with wide, solemn eyes. Mr. Thompson, Judge Caprio said formally. For the contempt of court violation, you are sentenced to 40 hours of community service at Elmwood Community Church, to be completed within 60 days. You will also write a reflective letter as discussed. Upon completion, this citation will be dismissed from your record. Do you accept these terms? Quote, Yes, Your Honor, Marcus said. Thank you. Thank you so much. Quote, The parking violations totaling $2,400 are hereby dismissed with prejudice, Judge Caprio announced. The meters in question were malfunctioning, and the remaining citations are reduced to warnings. Mr. Thompson, you are free to go. Use this second chance wisely. The gavel came down. The courtroom erupted in applause. An unusual occurrence in any courtroom, but the emotion was too powerful to contain. Officer Rodriguez was clapping. Emma Richardson wiped her eyes. Even Assistant Solicitor Brennan, usually stoic and procedure-focused, was nodding with approval. Marcus turned to his family. Alicia broke free from her mother and grandmother and ran to her father, wrapping her arms around his waist. Marcus lifted her up, holding her tightly. "I'm proud of you, Daddy," Alicia whispered in his ear. Those 5 words, in her small voice, broke something in Marcus that needed to break. He held his daughter and cried. Not tears of shame or desperation, but tears of relief and gratitude and hope. If you're crying too, you're not alone. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because stories like this remind us what humanity should look like. The next 60 days transformed Marcus Thompson's life in ways he couldn't have imagined. True to his word, he applied for every assistance program Emma Richardson had identified. He qualified for SNAP benefits that added $300 a month to their grocery budget. Jennifer no longer had to choose between buying milk and buying Sophie's asthma medication. He enrolled in the forklift certification course, attending classes 2 evenings a week at the community college. Tom Bradley adjusted Marcus's schedule so he could attend without losing income. The course was challenging. Marcus hadn't been in a classroom in years, but he studied every night after his daughters went to bed, determined to succeed. He and Jennifer attended counseling together at Rhode Island Community Mental Health. Their counselor, Dr. Michael Chen, helped them develop communication strategies, stress management techniques, and most importantly, helped Marcus understand that asking for help wasn't abandoning his responsibilities, it was fulfilling them in a smarter way. "You were trying to be a superhero," Dr. Chen told him during their 3rd session. "But superheroes aren't real. Real heroes are people who fall down and get back up. People who say, 'I can't do this alone,' and then accept the hands that reach out to help them." Marcus completed his 40 hours of community service at the food pantry by late November, 2 weeks ahead of schedule. He'd worked every Saturday, and many volunteers noticed something different about him. He smiled more. He talked to the people receiving food assistance with empathy rather than pity, often sharing his own story. "I was where you are a month ago," he'd tell people. "It gets better. Let people help you." Quote, one Saturday in early December, an elderly woman named Margaret Sullivan came through the line. She was 79 years old, a widow living on Social Security. Marcus helped her carry her bags to her car, a 20-year-old Toyota Corolla held together with hope and duct tape. "You're a kind young man," Margaret said. "Your parents raised you right." "My mom did her best," Marcus said, "and someone recently taught me that kindness creates more kindness. I'm just passing it along." That afternoon, Marcus sat at his kitchen table with the letter he'd been asked to write. He'd started it a dozen times, never finding the right words. But after his conversation with Margaret, the words finally came. He wrote, "Dear Marcus, today is December 2nd, 2023. You're sitting at the same table where, 46 days ago, you sat in darkness wondering if your life was over. You're going to remember October 17th for the rest of your life, not as the day you failed, but as the day you learned what grace really means. You're going to want to tell Alicia and Sophie this story someday. When you do, don't skip the hard parts. Tell them about cursing at Judge Caprio. Tell them about being put in handcuffs. Tell them about sitting in a cell, believing you'd destroyed everything, because that's the only way they'll understand the next part, the part where mercy showed up. Tell them that a judge who had every right to punish you chose to help you instead. Tell them that sometimes the people who see us most clearly are strangers who have no obligation to care, but choose to care anyway. Tell them that accepting help isn't weakness. It's the beginning of everything good that came after. You're different now. You know that, right? You're still the same Marcus who loves his family and works hard, but you're also Marcus who knows how to ask for help. Marcus who goes to counseling. Marcus who volunteers at the food pantry, not because he has to, but because he wants to. Marcus, who's going to pass his forklift certification next week and get a raise that will finally let his family breathe. But here's the most important thing. You're Marcus who keeps his promises. You promised Judge Caprio you'd pay it forward. You promised you'd help someone else someday. Keep that promise. When you're stable and comfortable, when the desperate days feel like distant memories, remember what it felt like to drown. And when you see someone drowning, don't look away. Throw them a rope. One day, Alicia and Sophie are going to face their own impossible moments. They're going to feel like giving up. When that happens, tell them this story. Tell them their father fell apart and someone helped put him back together. Tell them that grace is real, redemption is possible, and that the world is full of Judge Caprios, people who see our worth even when we can't see it ourselves. You're going to be okay, Marcus. Better than okay. You're going to be the man your daughters already think you are, the man your wife always believed in, the man your mother prayed you'd become. Keep going, keep growing, keep helping others. You've got this. Love, Marcus Thompson, the man you're becoming. He sealed the letter in an envelope and delivered it to Emma Richardson the next Monday. She read it in her office and immediately called Judge Caprio. Your Honor, you need to read this. Drop a comment telling us about a time someone gave you a second chance. These stories matter. Your story matters. On December 15, 2023, Marcus completed his forklift certification course, scoring 92% on the final exam. Tom Bradley presented him with his certificate at a small ceremony in the distribution center break room. Marcus's new pay rate increased from $17 an hour to $21 an hour. That $4 increase meant an extra $640 per month, enough to cover the grocery gap, put money towards Sophie's medical bills, and actually start a small emergency savings account. Jennifer found full-time work as a dental hygienist at a practice in Cranston, with benefits that included family health insurance. Sophie's asthma medications, which had been costing them over $300 a month out of pocket, were now covered with a $30 copay. For the first time in over a year, the Thompson family went to bed without the crushing weight of impossible mathematics. The daily calculation of which bills could be paid, which meals could be stretched, which necessities could be postponed. On Christmas Eve, Marcus took Alicia and Sophie to the toy store at Providence Place Mall. He had $200 in his pocket, money he'd saved specifically for this purpose. Patricia had offered to contribute, but Marcus had gently refused. "Mom, you've given enough," he'd said. "This one's on me." Alicia chose a microscope set because she wanted to look at cells and stuff. Sophie picked out a stuffed animal dolphin because dolphins are smart and they help people. Marcus bought them both and still had money left for Jennifer's gift, a silver necklace with 3 small charms representing each of their girls' birthstones. That night, after the girls were asleep, Marcus and Jennifer sat on their small balcony despite the December cold, wrapped in blankets, drinking hot chocolate. "Can you believe where we were 2 months ago?" Jennifer asked quietly. Marcus shook his head. "I was convinced my life was over. I thought I'd destroyed everything." "You were drowning," Jennifer said, "and someone saw you and pulled you out," quote. "Judge Caprio changed my life," Marcus said. "I need to thank him properly, not just a letter. Something more." He thought about it for a moment, then smiled. "I know what to do." On January 10, 2024, Marcus returned to Providence Municipal Court. Not because he was in trouble, but because he'd requested a meeting. Emma Richardson had arranged it, intrigued by Marcus's mysterious request. He arrived with a large photo album and a letter. Judge Caprio met him in his chambers, curious. "Mr. Thompson," the judge said warmly, "Emma tells me you wanted to see me?" Quote, "Yes, Your Honor," Marcus said. "I wanted to give you something, a progress report, I guess." He opened the photo album. The first page showed a photo of Marcus in his holding cell on October 17th, a still frame that Officer Rodriguez had provided from security footage. Marcus's head was in his hands, the picture of despair. The next page showed Marcus receiving his forklift certification, shaking Tom Bradley's hand, smiling. The next page showed Marcus and Jennifer at their counseling graduation ceremony. Drive Chen presented certificates to couples who completed the 6-week program. The next page showed Marcus at the food pantry, carrying boxes, helping Margaret Sullivan, laughing with Pastor Williams. Page after page documented the transformation. The final page showed Marcus with his family on Christmas morning, all four of them smiling, Alicia holding her microscope, Sophie hugging her dolphin. Beneath the photo, Marcus had written, "This is what grace looks like. Thank you for giving me the chance to become this man." Judge Caprio looked at the album for a long time, touching the photos gently. When he looked up, his eyes were wet. "Marcus," he said quietly, "do you know how rare this is? Most people I help, I never hear from again. I don't know if the assistants worked, if they got back on their feet, if they're okay. But you came back to show me. That means more than you know." "Your Honor," Marcus said, "you didn't just help me pay bills or dismiss tickets. You saw me. You saw past my worst moment to who I could become. That's everything." He handed Judge Caprio the letter. "I wrote this for you. It's not much, but I wanted you to know." The letter read, "Dear Judge Caprio, they say you should never meet your heroes because they'll disappoint you. You're the exception to that rule. I came into your courtroom as a man who'd given up. I'd worked myself to exhaustion, tried to carry impossible burdens alone, and when I finally broke, I broke in the ugliest way possible. I cursed at you. I disrespected you. I gave you every reason to wash your hands of me and move on to someone more deserving. But you didn't. You looked at me and saw someone worth saving. I don't think you understand what that did for me. For 2 years, I'd felt invisible. I felt like the world saw me as just another struggling worker, another person who couldn't get his life together, another statistic. But you saw a father, a husband, a man who'd lost his way but could find it again. You gave me more than money or dismissed tickets. You gave me dignity. You gave me hope. You gave me a roadmap for how to be a better man. I'm keeping my promise to you. I'm paying it forward. Last week, a coworker told me he was facing eviction. I gave him $500, every penny I'd saved for our emergency fund. My wife didn't hesitate. She said, "Someone helped us when we needed it. Now it's our turn. We'll rebuild the emergency fund." But Robert, my coworker, gets to keep his apartment, and his daughter gets to stay in her school. Next month, I'm starting a support group at work for employees dealing with financial stress. Tom Bradley approved it. We're calling it the Lifeline Project. I'm going to teach people what you taught me, that asking for help is strength, not weakness. I'm also starting a scholarship fund. It's tiny right now, just $50 a month that I'm putting aside. But in 10 years, it'll be enough to help a kid like me go to college. A kid who has dreams, but no money. I'm going to call it the Caprio Second Chance Scholarship. Your Honor, you're 87 years old, and you still come to work every day because you believe in second chances. I'm 38, and I'm going to spend the next 50 years proving you were right to believe in me. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for showing me what justice with mercy looks like. I will never forget what you did for me. Neither will my daughters. When Alicia is older, she's going to ask me who my hero is. I'm going to tell her about you. With eternal gratitude, Marcus Thompson. Judge Caprio read the letter twice. When he finished, he stood and walked around the desk. Marcus stood as well. The judge extended his hand, but then changed his mind and pulled Marcus into a hug. "You did this, Marcus," Judge Caprio said. "Not me. I just opened a door. You walked through it." Quote, "You gave me the key," Marcus said. "That's everything. If you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button right now. Stories like this don't happen by accident. They happen because people like Judge Caprio choose compassion every single day. The story of Marcus Thompson and Judge Frank Caprio spread beyond that courtroom. The Caught in Providence production team, after reviewing all the footage and getting permission from Marcus and the judge, created a special episode documenting the entire journey. It aired on February 14, 2024, Valentine's Day, titled The Gift of Grace. The episode went viral. Within a week, it had accumulated 23 million views on YouTube. News outlets from CNN to BBC picked up the story. Social media exploded with reactions. The hashtag Check Justice with Mercy trended for 3 days. People from around the world commented on the video. A woman from Brazil wrote, "This is the judge my country needs." A man from India wrote, "I was ready to give up today. This video saved my life." A single mother from Texas wrote, "I've been where Marcus was. Thank you for showing that it's okay to ask for help." But the most meaningful responses came from people who took action. The Caprio Family Foundation received over $400,000 in donations in 2 weeks, all earmarked for emergency assistance to families in crisis. 47 people started similar foundations in their own communities, inspired by Judge Caprio's model. Elmwood Community Church's food pantry saw volunteer applications triple. Pastor Williams told reporters, "People watched Marcus's story and realized they could be part of someone else's redemption." That's the power of grace. It multiplies. Rhode Island Community Mental Health saw a 38% increase in counseling inquiries. Dr. Chen said Marcus helped destigmatize asking for help. Men especially, who've been taught they need to suffer in silence, are finally reaching out. Quote, Northeast Distribution Center implemented the Lifeline Project company-wide, expanding Marcus's idea to all 11 of their facilities across New England. Over 200 employees enrolled in the first month, seeking help with financial stress, mental health challenges, and family crises. Tom Bradley told reporters, "Marcus showed us that our employees aren't just workers. They're human beings with complex lives. Helping them help themselves isn't charity. It's good business and good humanity." But perhaps the most unexpected impact came from the criminal justice community itself. Judges from 17 states reached out to Judge Caprio, asking for guidance on implementing mercy-based approaches in their own courtrooms. A movement began, Justice with Compassion, focused on treating defendants as human beings first, case numbers second. Judge Maria Santos from Los Angeles wrote in an op-ed, "Marcus Thompson's story reminds us that the goal of justice shouldn't be punishment. It should be restoration. When we see the person behind the offense, when we address root causes rather than just symptoms, we don't just change individual lives, we change communities." Share this video with every judge, every lawyer, every person in the justice system. This is what it should look like. This is what changes lives. 6 months after that October morning, on April 17, 2024, Marcus Thompson stood before a very different audience. He'd been invited to speak at Providence College's School of Social Work graduation ceremony. The dean, Dr. Elizabeth Morrison, had read about Marcus's story and believed the graduating social workers needed to hear it. Marcus stood at the podium, looking out at 200 soon-to-be social workers in caps and gowns. He'd never spoken publicly before. His hands trembled as he gripped the podium edge. "6 months ago," he began, "I was the kind of person you're being trained to help. I was drowning in poverty, crushed by circumstance, and too proud to ask for help. I thought asking for help meant I'd failed. I thought real strength meant carrying everything alone." He paused, looking at his note cards, then decided to set them aside. But I was wrong. Real strength, the kind of strength that Judge Frank Caprio showed me, is seeing someone at their worst and choosing to help them anyway. Real strength is looking past the anger, the profanity, the defense mechanisms that hurt people use to protect themselves, and seeing the wounded person underneath. He told them his story, the parking tickets, the outburst, the holding cell, Judge Caprio coming down to speak with him, the assistance, the transformation. "You're about to enter a field where you'll see people at their worst every single day," Marcus said. "You'll see addiction, abuse, poverty, mental illness, trauma. And you'll be tempted to become cynical, to protect your heart by seeing them as cases instead of people. Don't do that." His voice strengthened. "Every person you meet is someone's son or daughter, someone's parent, someone's friend." They're Marcus Thompson on October 17th, desperate and broken and making terrible choices because they can't see any other option. Your job isn't to judge them. Your job is to see them, to remind them that they're still human, still worthy, still capable of change. He looked directly at the graduating students. Judge Caprio didn't fix my problems for me. He gave me tools, resources, and most importantly, he gave me belief that I could fix them myself. That's what you need to give people, not solutions, not rescuing, but tools, resources, and the unshakable belief that they're worth the effort. Quote, "The auditorium was silent. Several students were crying. 6 months ago, I thought my life was over," Marcus said. "Today, I have a job I'm good at, a family that's secure, a purpose beyond just surviving. And I have a commitment to be for someone else what Judge Caprio was for me, to see people when they feel invisible, to offer grace when they expect judgment." He smiled. "You have the hardest job in the world ahead of you. You're going to be exhausted. You're going to question whether you're making a difference. But I'm standing here as proof that you will make a difference. One person at a time, one moment of compassion at a time, one choice to see humanity instead of a case file." He concluded with words he'd rehearsed with Jennifer the night before. "My 7-year-old daughter, Alicia, asked me what I was going to say today. I told her I was going to tell people about the day someone saved her daddy's life. She said, tell them to save other daddies too. So that's what I'm telling you. Save other daddies. Save other moms. Save other families. Be someone's Judge Caprio. Because that's the work that matters. That's the work that changes the world." The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. After the ceremony, 47 students approached Marcus to shake his hand and thank him. 12 asked for his contact information because they wanted to learn more about the Lifeline project and replicate it in other workplaces. One student, a 25-year-old woman named Rebecca Martinez, told Marcus through tears, "My father was just like you, worked himself to death trying to provide for us, never asked for help. He died of a heart attack at 43. I became a social worker because of him. Because I want to help people before they break. Thank you for showing me what success looks like." Marcus hugged her. "Your father would be proud of you," he said. "Go save some families." Quote, comment below with "I believe in grace" if this story has changed how you see justice. Let's flood the comments with hope. On October 17th, 2024, exactly 1 year after the incident, Marcus returned to Providence Municipal Court once more. This time, he brought his entire family, plus Pastor Williams, Tom Bradley, Dr. Chen, Emma Richardson, and a surprise guest, Catherine Torres from Allied Property Management. They gathered in Judge Caprio's courtroom after hours. The production crew was there, but this wasn't for television, this was personal. Marcus approached the bench where Judge Caprio sat. He carried a wooden plaque that he'd made himself in a woodworking class he'd taken at the community college. Another skill gained in his year of transformation. The plaque read, "In honor of Judge Frank Caprio, who taught me that grace is stronger than judgment, that mercy is justice in its highest form, and that second chances change lives, October 17th, 2023, the day I became who I was meant to be with eternal gratitude, Marcus Thompson and family." Judge Caprio accepted the plaque, clearly moved. "Marcus, this is beautiful. Did you make this yourself?" Quote, "I did," Marcus said proudly. "I've been learning woodworking. It's therapeutic. And I wanted to create something permanent, something that would last. It will hang in my chambers," Judge Caprio said, "where I can see it every day and remember why I do this work." But Marcus wasn't finished. "Your Honor, there's something else. The Caprio Second Chance Scholarship that I mentioned in my letter? It's real now. With the help of everyone in this room and contributions from people around the world who saw my story, we've raised $47,000. That's enough to send 4 students to community college for 2 years, fully paid." Judge Caprio's mouth opened in shock. "Marcus, that's incredible." "The first recipient is going to be announced next month," Marcus continued. "A young single mother who's working 2 jobs and trying to finish her degree. She reminds me of my mom. The scholarship will be awarded every year. And, Your Honor, with your permission, I'd like to present it here, in this courtroom, where my second chance began." Judge Caprio stood and walked down from the bench. He shook Marcus's hand, then pulled him into another hug. "You've taken what I gave you and multiplied it 1,000 times over. Marcus, I'm so proud of you." Patricia Thompson stepped forward, "Your Honor, may I say something?" Quote, "Of course, Mrs. Thompson. A year ago I sat in that gallery and watched my son being led away in handcuffs. I thought I'd failed as a mother. I thought I'd raised a son who couldn't handle adversity. But you saw what I couldn't see in that moment. You saw that my son wasn't broken. He was breaking under pressure that would have crushed anyone. And you didn't just help him. You reminded him who he really was." Quote. She wiped her eyes. "I'm 74 years old. I've seen a lot in my life. But I've never seen anything like what you did for Marcus. You gave me my son back. You gave my granddaughters their father back. You gave our family hope. Thank you doesn't feel like enough, but thank you." Jennifer stepped forward, holding Sophie's hand. Alicia stood beside her father. "Your Honor, my daughters wanted to give you something too." Quote. Alicia, now 8 years old, held out a handmade card. Inside, she'd written in her careful third-grade handwriting, "Dear Judge Caprio, thank you for helping my daddy. He smiles more now. He plays with us more. He doesn't cry in his room anymore when he thinks we're asleep. You're a superhero, but you don't wear a cape. You wear a robe. I want to be like you when I grow up. I want to help people like you helped us. Love, Alicia Thompson. P.S. Sophie helped with the drawings." The card was decorated with crayon drawings of a courtroom, a judge with a kind face, and a family holding hands. Judge Caprio knelt down to Alicia's level. "This is the most special thing anyone has ever given me," he said gently. "I'm going to keep it forever. And Alicia, you can be anything you want when you grow up. If you want to be a judge, I'll be the first person cheering for you." Alicia smiled shyly. "Can girls be judges?" Quote, "Absolutely," Judge Caprio said. "Some of the best judges I know are women. You'd be excellent." 4-year-old Sophie, now 5, tugged on Judge Caprio's sleeve. "I made you a picture too," she said, holding out a drawing of a stick figure judge with a giant heart in the middle of his body. "That's you," she explained. "Daddy says you have the biggest heart." Judge Caprio accepted the drawing, and for a moment, the 88-year-old judge who'd seen it all, who'd presided over tens of thousands of cases, who'd been honored by governors and presidents and community leaders, that judge teared up. "Thank you, Sophie," he managed to say. "I'll treasure this." The gathering moved to Judge Caprio's chambers, where Emma had arranged coffee and pastries. They spent 2 hours talking, laughing, and sharing updates. Tom Bradley reported that the Lifeline Project had helped 63 employees in the past year, preventing 2 suicide attempts and 7 family homelessness situations. Dr. Chen reported that Marcus and Jennifer had become peer counselors, helping other couples navigate financial stress and relationship challenges. Catherine Torres shared that she'd implemented a new policy at Allied Property Management. Tenants facing hardship could apply for a 60-day grace period without late fees, inspired by Marcus's honesty and transparency when he'd first fallen behind. Pastor Williams announced that Elmwood Community Church had partnered with 3 other churches to expand their food pantry services, now serving over 500 families per month. If you're not crying by now, check your pulse, hit that like button and subscribe, because these are the stories that prove humanity is worth believing in. As the gathering ended and people began to leave, Judge Caprio asked Marcus to stay for a moment. When the room cleared, the judge sat at his desk, and Marcus took the familiar chair across from him. "Marcus," Judge Caprio said, "I want to tell you something. I've been doing this for 40 years. 40 years of cases, of defendants, of circumstances ranging from minor to tragic. I've helped a lot of people. But you're different." "How?" Marcus asked. "Most people I help, they receive the assistance. They move on with their lives, and I hope it made a difference," Judge Caprio explained. "But I don't usually see the long-term impact. I don't know if the help truly changed their trajectory or just gave them a temporary reprieve. But you've shown me the impact. You've documented it, shared it, multiplied it. You've proven that mercy works, that grace creates more grace. That second chances can transform not just one life, but entire communities." He leaned forward. "Do you know what you've given me, Marcus?" Quote, Marcus shook his head. Validation, Judge Caprio said. After 40 years, there are moments when I question my approach. When other judges tell me I'm too soft. When critics say I'm being manipulated by sob stories. When I wonder if the compassionate approach really makes a difference, or if I'm just making myself feel good. But then you walk into my courtroom a year later with a scholarship fund, with a life transformed, with evidence that mercy works, and you remind me why I do this. Marcus's throat was tight. Your Honor, if I've given you even a fraction of what you gave me, I'm honored. You saved my life. No, Judge Caprio said firmly but kindly. You saved your own life. You made the choice to accept help. You did the work. You made the changes. You kept the promises. I just opened a door. You walked through it and then opened doors for other people. That's all you, Marcus. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Judge Caprio smiled. You know what I think you should do next? Quote. What's that? Quote. Law school, Judge Caprio said. You should become a lawyer, maybe eventually a judge. The legal system needs people who understand what it's like to stand on the other side of that podium, who know what desperation feels like, who can look at a defendant and see themselves. Marcus laughed. Your Honor, I barely made it through community college classes. Law school? Quote. Why not? Judge Caprio challenged. A year ago, did you think you'd be starting scholarship funds and speaking at graduations? You're already teaching and helping people. Might as well get the credentials to do it officially. Marcus considered it. The idea seemed impossible. And yet, 12 months ago, getting out of debt seemed impossible. Having stable housing seemed impossible. Finding purpose seemed impossible. And now all of those impossible things were real. I'll think about it, Marcus said. Think seriously. Judge Caprio said. The Rhode Island bar exam isn't going anywhere. You've got time. But Marcus, you have something most law students don't have. You have empathy born from experience. That's invaluable. They shook hands one final time. As Marcus left the chambers, he turned back. Your Honor, thank you for believing in me before I believed in myself. Quote. Judge Caprio smiled. That's what grace does, Marcus. It believes when belief seems foolish, and then it proves that belief was right all along. Drop a comment right now, telling us what you're going to do differently after watching this. How will you show grace to someone this week? We want to hear your stories. On a cold December evening in 2024, 14 months after that October morning, Marcus sat at his kitchen table with a laptop open in front of him. Jennifer was giving Sophie a bath. Alicia was doing homework in her room. The apartment was warm, the refrigerator was full, and all the bills were paid. Marcus opened the LSAC website, the Law School Admission Council. He'd been researching for weeks, quietly, not telling anyone except Jennifer. He'd taken a practice LSAT and scored surprisingly well, not Harvard material, but solid enough for regional law schools. He clicked on the application for Roger Williams University School of Law in Rhode Island, part-time evening program, designed for working professionals. 4 years instead of 3, classes only in the evening. He could keep his job, keep supporting his family, and pursue the impossible dream that Judge Caprio had planted in his mind. His phone buzzed. A text from Tom Bradley. Marcus, corporate loved the Lifeline project. They want to promote you to program coordinator. Salary increase to $28 per hour plus benefits. You'd be running the program company-wide. Interested? Quote. Marcus stared at the text. $28 an hour. That was nearly $58,000 a year. That was middle class. That was stability. That was savings accounts and college funds and family vacations. A year ago, he would have been crying with relief. Now he simply smiled and texted back, very interested. Thank you, Tom. Jennifer emerged from the bathroom with Sophie wrapped in a towel. What are you looking at? She asked, seeing the laptop screen. Marcus turned it toward her. Law school applications. Jennifer set Sophie down and looked at the screen, then at her husband. Are you serious? Quote. Judge Caprio thinks I should do it, Marcus said. He thinks I'd be good at it. And I've been thinking, all the things we went through, all the assistance programs I didn't know about, all the legal protections I didn't understand. How many other people are in that same position? People who need legal help but can't afford lawyers. What if I could be that help? Quote. Jennifer pulled up a chair and sat beside him. 4 years is a long time. I know. Night classes means less time with the girls. I know. And law school is expensive, even if you work full-time. I know. Marcus pulled up another tab, the scholarship page for Roger Williams. But there are scholarships, and student loans for public service careers have forgiveness programs. And Tom just texted, I'm getting promoted. We can afford this. Jennifer studied her husband's face. She saw determination there, purpose, the same look he'd had when he'd started the Lifeline Project, when he'd volunteered to speak at Providence College, when he'd created the scholarship fund. You're going to do this whether I say yes or no, aren't you? She asked, smiling. I'd like your support, Marcus said. But yes, I think I have to do this. I think this is part of keeping my promise to pay it forward, to help people who are where I was. Jennifer kissed him. Then do it. Apply. Let's make the impossible happen again. That night, Marcus Thompson submitted his application to Roger Williams University School of Law. In the personal statement section, he wrote about October 17, 2023, about cursing at a judge and being put in handcuffs, about grace and redemption and the power of second chances. He concluded his statement with these words. I am not applying to law school because I've always dreamed of being a lawyer. I'm applying because I've learned that the legal system can be either a tool of oppression or a tool of liberation, depending on who wields it and how they wield it. I want to wield it the way Judge Frank Caprio wielded it for me, with wisdom, compassion, and an unshakable belief in human potential. I want to be the lawyer who sees the person behind the case, the advocate who reminds desperate people that they're not alone, the future judge who looks at a defendant cursing at his bench and sees not a criminal, but a human being having the worst day of his life. If you give me this opportunity, I promise to honor it by dedicating my career to serving those who need justice but can't afford it. Because someone saw me at my worst and chose to help me anyway, now it's my turn to do the same. 3 months later, Marcus received his acceptance letter. He'd been awarded a partial scholarship for students committed to public interest law. He would begin classes in September 2025. When he told Judge Caprio the news, the judge's response was simple. I can't wait to call you Attorney Thompson someday. And after that, Judge Thompson. The system needs you, Marcus. Subscribe and turn on notifications because Marcus's journey is far from over. Part 2 of this story is coming soon, and you won't believe where he is 5 years from now. The story of Marcus Thompson and Judge Frank Caprio isn't just a story about one man's redemption. It's a story about what happens when mercy becomes contagious, when grace spreads like wildfire, when one act of compassion creates ripples that turn into waves. Today, Marcus Thompson is 39 years old. He works full-time coordinating the Lifeline Project for Northeast Distribution Center, impacting hundreds of employees across New England. He's in his second semester of law school, maintaining a 3.7 GPA while working full-time and being present for his family. The Caprio Second Chance Scholarship has helped 12 students attend college, with 4 already graduating and entering careers in teaching, nursing, and social work. Alicia Thompson, now 9, has announced she wants to be either a scientist or a judge. She volunteers with her father at the food pantry every Saturday. Sophie Thompson, now 6, is thriving despite her asthma, active in dance class and already reading above grade level. Jennifer Thompson is a licensed dental hygienist working full-time, and she recently started training as a financial literacy counselor, teaching other families how to budget and access assistance programs. Patricia Thompson, now 75, volunteers 3 days a week at the food pantry her son helped expand. She tells everyone who'll listen about the day her son met an angel disguised as a judge. Judge Frank Caprio, now 89, continues to preside over Providence Municipal Court. His Caught in Providence show has surpassed 500 million total views on YouTube. He receives letters daily from people around the world who've been inspired to show mercy, to help struggling families, to see humanity instead of case numbers. The episode featuring Marcus Thompson remains the most viewed episode in the show's history, with over 38 million views and counting. In the comments, thousands of people share their own stories of redemption, of receiving unexpected mercy, of paying it forward. But perhaps the most meaningful legacy is this. Marcus Thompson keeps a framed photo in his home. It's from October 17, 2023, a still frame from the courtroom video. Marcus at the podium, head bowed, while Judge Caprio looks at him not with judgment but with compassion. Beneath the photo, Marcus wrote, "This is the moment my life changed. Not because I was punished, because I was seen." Every morning before he leaves for work or school, Marcus looks at that photo. And every morning he reminds himself of 3 promises. Always see people as human beings, not problems. Never let pride prevent asking for help. Pass the grace forward, always. These 3 promises guide every decision Marcus makes. When an employee comes to him through the Lifeline Project, struggling with debt or family crisis, Marcus sees himself. When a classmate in law school shares their struggles, Marcus offers support, tutoring, and the reminder that they're not alone. When Sophie has a bad asthma day and the medical bills pile up again, which still happens sometimes, Marcus remembers he has resources now, people to call, programs to access, and that asking for help isn't weakness. Judge Caprio's lessons have become Marcus Thompson's operating system for life. Comment, "Justice with mercy," if you believe this is how the legal system should work everywhere. Share this video with every lawyer, judge, police officer, and person in power that you know. The ripple effects continue to spread. In 2025, 3 more judges in Rhode Island implemented compassion-based approaches in their courtrooms, citing Marcus's story as inspiration. The Rhode Island Bar Association created the Quote for Judicial Excellence, recognizing judges who demonstrate extraordinary compassion while upholding the law. Nationally, the Justice with Compassion movement has grown to include 47 judges across 19 states. They meet quarterly to share strategies for seeing defendants as human beings, for addressing root causes rather than just symptoms, for using the bench as a platform for transformation rather than just punishment. Marcus has been invited to speak at 3 of these conferences. His message is always the same. I was the defendant you'll see tomorrow. Angry, desperate, making terrible choices. But I wasn't a bad person, I was a good person having a crisis. Someone saw that difference. Someone chose mercy over judgment. And that choice changed everything. Not just for me, but for everyone my life touches. That's the power you have every single day. After one such speech in Philadelphia, a young public defender named Marcus Johnson, no relation, approached Marcus Thompson. "I'm named after Marcus Garvey," he explained. "My parents wanted me to fight for justice, but your story reminded me what justice actually means. Not winning cases, not clever arguments, but seeing the humanity in every client. Thank you for that reminder." Marcus Thompson shook his hand. "You're already doing the work. Keep going. The people you represent need you to see them the way Judge Caprio saw me." The conversation lasted 20 minutes. 3 months later, Marcus Johnson successfully argued for a treatment program instead of prison time for a first-time drug offender. That defendant, a 24-year-old woman named Crystal Rodriguez, completed the program, has been sober for 8 months, and recently gained custody of her daughter again. Crystal wrote to Marcus Johnson, "You fought for me when I couldn't fight for myself. You saw me as a mother, not just an addict. Thank you for giving me the chance to become who my daughter needs me to be." Marcus Johnson forwarded that letter to Marcus Thompson with a note, "This is your legacy too. Your story inspired me to fight harder, thank you." Grace multiplies, mercy compounds, compassion creates more compassion. This is the math of redemption. Like this video if you believe in second chances. Subscribe if you believe people are more than their worst moments. Share this everywhere because these are the stories that change hearts and save lives. In June 2029, Marcus Thompson will walk across a stage and receive his law degree. His mother, his wife, his daughters, and Judge Frank Caprio will be in the audience. The keynote speaker at graduation will be, at Marcus's request, Judge Caprio himself, delivering a speech about the future of compassionate justice. But we're not there yet. As of today, Marcus is still working full-time, still attending night classes, still running the Lifeline Project, still volunteering at the food pantry, still being a present father and husband. The journey isn't over. The transformation continues. The ripples keep spreading. Because on October 17, 2023, a desperate man stood in a courtroom and made the worst mistake of his life. And an 87-year-old judge looked past the mistake and saw the man. That single choice, that moment of grace, changed 2 lives, then 10 lives, then hundreds, now thousands. How many more will be changed? That depends on what we do next. Will we see people or just problems? Will we offer mercy or just judgment? Will we believe in redemption or just in punishment? Marcus Thompson chose to accept help, do the work, and pass the grace forward. Judge Frank Caprio chose to see humanity instead of a case number. What will you choose? Because somewhere, right now, someone is having their October 17, 2023. Someone is at their breaking point. Someone is drowning. Someone is about to make a terrible mistake born from desperation. Will you be their Judge Caprio? Will you see them? Will you offer the grace that changes everything? That's the question this story leaves us with. Not, what an amazing story, but what amazing story will you create through your choices? Quote. The answer starts now. Comment below with one specific way you're going to show grace to someone this week. Be specific. Make it real. Then come back and tell us what happened. Let's create a comment section full of grace stories. Let's prove that Marcus and Judge Caprio's story isn't unique. It's replicable. It's contagious. And if you're the person drowning right now, if you're having your October 17th moment, hear this. You are not alone. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not defined by your worst moment. Help exists. Grace exists. People like Judge Caprio exist all around you. You just have to be willing to be seen. Ask for help. Accept mercy. Do the work. Pass it forward. That's the cycle that changes the world, one person at a time. Subscribe right now if you believe this message needs to reach more people. Turn on notifications so you never miss stories that restore faith in humanity. And share this video with everyone you know, especially the people who are struggling, the people who need to know that redemption is real. This is what justice looks like when mercy shows up. This is what transformation looks like when grace takes root. This is what humanity looks like at its best. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. Thank you for believing that people are worth fighting for. Now go be someone's second chance.